Here goes. I don't want to say nothing.
Hey, this is something.
It has this. Where's my face? Anyways, it's so red.
Yeah. I'm just sharing it now, so it looks like it's live.
Yeah. Okay, is it live? Yep, it is live now. All right, everybody. All right, welcome everybody. Oops, did I just go?
No, you're good.
No, I'm gone.
Oh no, you're frozen.
Yeah, because I turned off my eCam software because I've been feeding my camera through eCam.
Well, you have frozen on and oh, there we go. You're back. You had
I'm
a
back.
smile. It was all good.
Yeah. All right. Everybody, please comment. So here's my friend from Australia, Vanessa Jane Patrick. This is part 2 of our interview
Yeah.
that we did from last how many weeks ago?
I don't know. It must have been over a month ago. I'm still in
Yeah,
lockdown. No, anyway, yeah, it's crazy.
so good. Okay, so what are we gonna talk about now? Okay, for my fans, this is gonna be in English because my fans are in Burma. So for my page,မေးချင်တာရှိရင်မြန်မာလိုမေးထားလို့ရတယ်ကျွန်တော်ဘာသာပြန်ပေးမယ် Okay Vanessa Australia ကျွန်တော်တင်ငယ်ချင်း um coach trainer and transformation coach, right? Yeah, so please share this live. All right, so where do you want to start?
Let's roll with whatever. I mean, every time I chat with you, I could spend the whole day here. And I think last time we chatted, I was so wiped out. Like I was just gone for the day. But so I've got more energy today.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's good.
Where would you like to take it? What do you think your audience might be interested in?
My audience mainly is interested in, I guess, learning, right? Learning psychology. Because you did law, right, at uni?
Actually,
what did you do?
I did a
If you
business.
don't mind talking about it.
Yeah, I did a business degree, and then I had a year and a half left with my law degree that's when I got introduced to the work of Tony Robbins. And I made a huge shift and change and decided to exit law and get into what I do now. So, yeah.
Are you gonna be fine with the sun? You're gonna have to keep moving.
1 second.
Yeah. You
I'll
can just go pull the shade down or whatever.
That's better. Let's close the curtain.
Yeah, that's better. All right. Cool. So yeah. That's cool. So because I shared my experience with my audience, right? Which is I barely passed the matriculation. We have until year 10, and then we go to uni for 4 years, general degrees, right?
Yeah.
So I didn't know how to study. I didn't know how to I didn't know myself. I didn't know why I was studying, right? So I almost failed, but then I was fortunate because my dad taught me English, and that became, I guess, and a couple of other teachers, I guess that became like the foundation for me to actually access all these material and information in personal growth that has helped me look at myself and turn things around for myself. Right. So for me personally, like English is the language that allow me access to all these wonderful, information, life-changing materials, information, knowledge, right? That it does allow me to change how I view the world, how I view myself, Yeah. So for my audience, they're mainly wanting to master the language so that they get to a level where, so right now, because that's the audience that I've been attracting, I think, the most.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you would share your learning journey as to how you view your learning,
Yeah.
that's allow you to take your mindset on learning, your mindset on investing in yourself, and your mindset on, and also viewing English learners, like people of other native speakers who are learning English, like how you view them. Because
Yeah.
you know how, I'm sorry, I'm asking you a lot of questions, but we can come back, right? The your view on people who's learned to speak English as a second language, but they struggle, because that's, I think we lose a lot of self-confidence if we can't speak something English well, right? So we're feeling that people are judging us, the native speakers can't understand us. So yeah,
Do you
take it
know,
away.
what is so funny is I was just having this conversation with somebody a few days ago, actually, and my very, very first job was actually teaching somebody English. And
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
yeah, I was like 12 years old. And one of the stores at my local shopping center, my mum and I were like buying some socks at this store. And there was a Chinese girl who worked behind, the counter. And she asked me, hey, can I pay you to come and spend a couple of hours with me and just talk English? And basically, so yeah, she was paying me like $20 an hour to just go and sit in the sock shop with her, and we'd just have conversations and help her kind of conversationally just speak English. And on top of that, my grandparents dedicated a lot of their time to meeting with immigrants who were just coming to Australia for the first time. And they'd go to these sort of evenings where you'd sit in these kind of round tables as the English speakers and speak to them like in English, right? And give them the opportunity to practice. And my grandparents took me a few times to go and do that. And I loved it. And I was always so impressed because to me, oftentimes I have clients where their second language is English, right? And they're always apologizing to me. Oh, like, sorry if this doesn't make sense or this. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, please. Like, I know nothing about another language and you are fluently speaking English. Like, I'm understanding everything you're saying. I'm always so impressed with the courage that it takes to speak another language. And when people doubt themselves and stuff, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I just put myself, I'm like, I could not speak a word of your language, your native language. So please, like, it's awesome.
Thank you for sharing that
Totally.
perspective and
Yeah.
that view, because because I understand how it's like right now I'm learning Spanish with Emily, right?
Yeah.
And this is, I think, the fourth week, and I'm in that place where it's like a beginner's mind, and it's so vulnerable. Like with English, I'm at a level where I can speak fluently, so I have no problem. It's kind of unconscious competence for me. So with Spanish, I'm just starting to learn. It's like, oh my God, I don't know a lot of stuff. I don't know how to call the things.
Yeah.
So I'm learning vocabularies and building the foundation, and it takes a lot of courage, like you said, to speak and make mistake and allow myself to make mistake and be corrected.
Totally.
It's so vulnerable. Yeah, it takes a lot of courage.
Absolutely. And I know that, even when I was at school learning French, like I learnt Indonesian when I was in primary school, and I can still count and stuff like that, but not much. But even I can remember learning French at school, and even I've done a lot of travel around Europe and particularly in France because I just love it over there. And I've always been quite self-conscious about the language. Like I can understand it, I can read it, but I have trouble speaking it because I can get self-conscious about, my Australian accent and not wanting to put on the accent or like, and it just, that's why I feel like when people can speak English and it's their second language, I'm like, whoa, like you're doing some cool stuff, right? I really admire that. And I also love what you mentioned before about, you know, going to university and feeling like, you know, you're about to fail and all of that sort of stuff. And, you know, even outside of, you know, because I was going to university in English, my first language, I didn't have that barrier to cross. And university is difficult as it is, you know, without having a language barrier as well. But my perspective on that is you have to have the passion and the enthusiasm for what you're learning, because in my life, yeah, like you know my story a bit, and I'm pretty sure I might have mentioned some of this with your audience last time, but basically I didn't know what I wanted to do, and well, I sort of did, but I let everybody else's voices be louder than mine, and that led me to my brother picking my degree for me. So I did a business degree. I wasn't really interested in it. I just knew I was going to I had to study more, you know, I had to grow myself, and I didn't know what personal development was at that point. So it was go get another degree, right? And then when I finished that, and that was a real struggle, right? Because I wasn't passionate about it. I was just like doing whatever I could to just get by in it. And there was no juice at the end of the tunnel for that. And then I did my law degree. I chose that because I still didn't know what I wanted to do. I just thought, well, maybe that'll open up more doors until I do work out what I want to do. And basically it wasn't until I got to the point where I got clarity over what I'm actually really interested in as an individual, not trying to be who I thought my parents needed me to be, society wanted me to be, what was going to give me the approval or the acceptance. And instead, what I was really passionate about. And it wasn't until that point, so I was like 24, 25, that, and I got to choose what I got to learn for the first time in my life. I could not put down a book. Like I read more books in a week, I reckon, than I read in my whole life previously to that, because I actually got to select, and I was actually connected to what I was passionate about. And I mean, I read that many relationship books, health and fitness stuff. Like I was just like enthralled in that. And then, you know, it's transitioned into mindset. And then of course I met you through personality psychology, and, you know, and that just, to me, I'm a lifelong learner now. And I read every day. I'm always in a course, if not more than one, at least one, you know.
High five.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
love it.
mm-hmm.
I think that's crucial if you want to always be growing.
Yeah.
Is you always need to be learning, right?
Yeah.
With oh my god, there's so many things that I want to talk about. You mentioned the passion that you need to have, an enthusiasm when it comes to actually following, basically becoming proficient in something that you're interested in. It's like, how do you develop that passion?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like, where I'm coming from is most people, they want to learn English mostly for job opportunities. They know that it's a international language, right? It's gonna allow them to even working locally, and a lot of you know, foreign investments are here. Foreign companies are investing, so there's no you know, avoiding working with foreigners or English speakers, right? Even they're not native English or American or Australian. English is like the common language that we communicate with,
Yes.
right? Even with Koreans or whoever. So most people want to master the language or get to a level where they're proficient and be able to be confident speaking it. But that's not motivating enough for them. to
Totally.
allow them to overcome all the obstacles that, you know, the hours they need to put in, the practice that they need to put in, the study time, taking courses, whatever.
That's actually
Right.
why I think it's so important, like probably even extra important for those who have English as a second language that they're trying to learn. They have to get connected to what they're most inspired by. And
Yes.
because if they don't, right, like if you're just trying to learn English on top of, you know, I mean, I'm speaking from I didn't need to learn English and it was still a struggle. It's always going to be a struggle until you tap in what's behind the curtain, right? Like
Yeah.
the speaking English is the vehicle that will allow you to go somewhere. But if you don't know where you're going on the map, like you're just, what's the point in the vehicle? You might as well just park and not bother, right?
That's so good. The vehicle. I love it.
And
Yeah, English is the vehicle that's gonna allow you to get to where you need to get to, but you need to know what your destination is, where you're getting to.
And that's
Yeah.
exactly why I'm super passionate about the arena where you and I met, right? About with
Mm.
personality psychology, because
Mm-hmm.
it's so difficult. And I'm speaking from my own experience, somebody who didn't know what I was passionate about. I was always that kid at school who was like, I could just get by everywhere. Like I didn't have anything that was just like, like that's my,
Like I was. Like most kids are in school.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And and so and so, you know, finding the thing that you're passionate about, I think is the first step for everything. If you want to be motivated, if you want to like have the fuel to move forward, you got to know,
Mm.
like we're saying, that destination. And basically it was not until I found my type in personality psychology, right, that I actually had clarity, right? Because
Yeah.
spend so much time going from this shiny object to this shiny object. Like, I think I like that, or I think I like that, or that person's doing that, and that might be cool. And we can waste so much time in directions that we end up finding, oh, you know, like me doing a business degree, then doing a law degree. Like, I spent a lot of money, like doing those, right? And
Yeah. And it wastes a lot of time.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so discovering your type is super important. Like I know now when I look at my type, basically I've actually got this little whiteboard behind here. I'm not sure if you can see it, but this is the sort of thing that I look at. And it's like,
Oh, that's awesome.
you know, so people probably can't see, it's probably not that good, but basically there's different types of our personalities, like how we're wired, you know,
Mm-hmm.
cognitively, like the neuroscience of personality. When we look at that and you see and identify your type, I know without a doubt that my inspiration comes from actualizing my potential, right? It's from integrity with myself, and it's self-realization, right? That's my particular category. But for other people, like I look at other people, I look at my mum, for instance, and I could easily, you know, look at her and go, oh, well, she's not living a fulfilling life because my style of life is the fulfilling one. Unless I
Mm.
know how she's wired, and I'm like, she is absolutely on point. You know, her, you know, ability to tap into her highest potential and what she's most inspired by comes from
Mm.
stability, right? Creating stability and safety in the realm of the people that she loves. And, you know, and then I can look at my dad, and he's a freedom and impact kind of guy. So is one of my brothers, you know. And then for you, Thurein, you're more about mastery and knowledge, right?
Yeah.
So if we can just look, and that's very tip of the iceberg, right? We're not even going into the specifics of your type, but already there's a level of, I really resonate with that, right? And it's like a filtering process for the tons of
Yes.
different options that each and every one of us have. It's like, well, how do I decide? How do I channel? I've only got so much energy. How do I make
Mm.
sure that I'm channeling it in the right direction, right? If
Yeah.
vehicle to get you to where you want to get to. and you've got to define, you know, where it is that I'm excited to go. And then that's also going to be the fuel in the tank, right? To get
Yep.
you to learn in the ways that you need to learn and actually get to the end of your life. And, you know, this is your whole page is about your empowered life. If you want to be
Yeah.
empowered, you got to know who you are and what you want and have the courage
Yeah.
to go after it. Yeah.
Definitely. I love that. I love that little map that you have. Is that the iceberg thing? Is that the actual iceberg that you're talking about?
Well, it's kind of Maslow's
That's so, that's so cool.
but then
Yeah.
each of the, you know, the four categories of type each have their self-actualization kind of
Is that an anti type of categories? Or I don't know. I haven't looked at it for a while. So for people who are interested, can you share where they can find it, like find you if they want to learn more from you?
absolutely. So I've got a free 3-part video series that people can access
Awesome.
straight away. So if they just go on the top of my website, which is just vanessajanepatrick.com.
Yep. I think I've included the link in the post description, but
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, we'll put it. Do you
and
want?
access from there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, perfect. So yeah, but they can get that free part video there, and yeah, and so that's kind of a good entry point. But yeah, and then I could suggest a whole bunch of different things people could do, but probably just start somewhere.
Yeah. You're becoming like a fire hose of information, right? That's awesome. Yeah. So what you're saying is to recap what you just said the past maybe 5 minutes.
Yep.
So for you to get to where you need to get to, you have to get clear on who you are, because that's the frame that you view things from.
Mm-hmm.
Would that be, can I put it that way?
Yeah, I'd say that it's kind of like the filtering process, right? Like
Filtering process, yeah.
because if you try and be anybody but yourself, you're spending all of your energy designing somebody else's life, right? And that's what's so taxing. People don't understand that actually, you know, there's different modalities of accessing our energy, right? We can look at it from a biological standpoint, but there's a whole untapped energy source when you discover who it is that you are and what it is that you're inspired by. You access a whole new level of energy. You know, we can look at some of the greatest people in the world, and they almost look like they're unstoppable. Like, do they even sleep? You know, and it's ultimately because they know who they are and they're on purpose. And they've taken the time, or however they've kind of come about doing this, to discover, you know, that depth. Like, what am I inspired by? Because I am like the opposite to a lawyer, right? I'm more of a mediator. So I was trying to be a lawyer, but really I was passionate about mediation, which is
You're more about people instead of the process.
I want to bring people together, not like tear them apart, a winner and a loser.
Yeah.
Not my style, right? So
Yeah,
that was a lot of energy in the wrong direction.
definitely. That's such a good example.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing your link. So for people who want I'll also copy and paste it in the description later. So oh my God. I'm like, my thought process, everything's jammed together because there's so many thoughts coming in. I want to talk about when you say the filtering process, the energy, right? The energy, because when you find your type, like who you really are, when you know who you really are, you can access the energy that you didn't have before. Would that be something that has to do with like your I don't know, I don't want to go too woo here, like soul purpose, like the reason you are in this body on this planet at this time is for you to share that whatever your belief is, right? I think it's a universal truth, right? We have the body and the soul, right? The physical and the material and the spiritual, right? so the spirit has a lot of energy, but if we're not directing in the correct direction or right direction, it can't come out. It can't express itself.
Yeah.
Right? Is that how you would say it?
Yeah. So I can talk
Feel
about
free to take it away.
I talk about it like woo woo, and I like to, because I come from a family that's very anti woo woo. I've learned a
Yep.
long time ago to kind of go, all right, I can go straight to the woo woo, right? But then I'm like, okay, then how do I make it like be a lot more logical for people to actually be able to chew on?
I think that would be better. Yeah.
Okay, so basically, I look at it from this kind of perspective. So I feel like, okay, I'll start with a little bit of woo woo and then I'll make it more real. So
Yep.
I like to
Love
think
it.
that when we are on the right track, right, everything becomes smooth and easy. It's like we get more energy. And every time we feel like we stop, start, like we can't move forward, we're like, things happen, things are challenging. I actually look at that as feedback from, whatever you want to call it, like our inner self, our higher self, that inner knowing, the universe, whatever you want to call it. But it's kind of like, it's like, hang on, you're not doing the right thing. You're not on the right path. So it makes it hard to move forward. And when you find those things that are really in alignment with you, then everything starts to fall into place. But more so than that, when you find the things that you really value, that are really meaningful to you as an individual, you are willing to go through and move through the challenge, right? It's like you have purpose. It's like if you're trying to do something that's not in alignment with what you value, and an obstacle comes up, you're like thrown off path. Oh, can't be bothered. Don't have enough reasons why, right?
You give up so easily.
Totally. But if we have tapped into the meaning, the value, and we can see this thing like that, there's so much meaning and purpose behind it, or so many reasons why, or so many benefits for us moving in that direction. The inevitable challenges of life come before us, and we're willing to smash through them, right? And grow stronger along the way. And that in and of itself is a mindset shift, because you have to start looking at challenges as being inevitable and the necessary stepping stones to get you to where you want to get to, because they allow you to muscle, to become the person, to build the character that you need in order to, move in that inspired direction. But this is one of the main reasons. I think last time we chatted, we spoke about Dr. John Demartini and going on his website and doing his free values determination exercise. So I recommend that as well. But it's just another way of looking at personality type, I see, because if you can get your correct.
Yeah, there's so many ways.
It's like so many fingers, pointing at the moon. Right? Like we're all trying to get to that thing.
Yeah.
There's all these different ways of getting there. It's just when I talk about personality psychology, it is honestly the best I've found so far. It's the most uniquely tailored to the individual, rather than
Definitely.
this kind of big one size fits all.
Yeah, because for me personally, that's also something that's allowed me to accept myself. Because as someone who is, I think I have a lot of self-judgment about how I should be, because that has been programmed since I was the way that I grew up, the environment that I grew up in, right? So there's a certain way that you need to be. This is wrong. This is right, right? As someone who, I guess I had a lot of challenges communicating my thoughts. I see myself as not being able to communicate with people, not good with people. Had a lot of struggle emotionally expressing myself. So all these, I think the healing. I want to talk about healing as well in finding your vision is how, I guess, what part it plays. But going back to what I was saying is knowing that my type of personality, those are the tendency that I have as that type. So it's more general, and I don't take it personally because that's how I'm wired to think and process information and communicate and see the world, right? So it's allowed me to, I think it's given me permission to just be myself.
Totally. Like, and
Yeah.
that's exactly it, right? Because before you discovered that you're an INTJ and also that you're a number 5 on the Enneagram, right? Those are the same like challenges. And you could be comparing yourself to other people who have different strengths, right? Different strengths and different weaknesses, and basically just be super judgmental of yourself rather than now
Yeah.
understanding that there's such a tiny percentage of the population that are your particular type as the INTJ, right?
Mhm.
I mean, you're amongst some good company there, right? Like Elon Musk is an INTJ. If you hear him talk, like sometimes, like if you didn't know, like if you didn't know it was like who he is, he's
Oh,
quite slow to communicate. Like I don't know if you watch Joe Rogan's podcast, but
I
he's
did.
yeah, he's been on there a couple of times, and like, and he's
Yeah.
how he talks is like he you know, Joe Rogan's trying to like almost trying to get blood out of a stone, right?
Yeah.
I don't understand. I mean, this guy is like incredible, right? Like we know, like the
He's a genius.
the way that you see the world, the way that you're able to envision the future. You know, it's like I like love getting to connect with you because I'm like, oh, like I love what your strengths are, you know, and
Yeah.
those things that you were once maybe judgmental of yourself about, but then discover
Mm.
framework we're able to get to that place of permission to be yourself. Like
Mhm.
I love those things about you, right? Like
Thank you.
I think like how amazing they are, um
Mhm.
and how different they are, and it makes you even more fascinating, right? And
Yeah.
we don't understand that, and we don't look at people or ourselves like that until we understand ourselves, and then we start to get interested about the differences between other people because
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Really appreciate you sharing that. At the same way, right? Another benefit of understanding yourself, learning your type. Well, we didn't intend to go there, talking about personality types, but here we are. So if you want to learn more about personality types, Vanessa is the person to go to, her website and the link, get a 3-part video series. So me understanding the type, my type, and also understanding other people's types allow me to accept other people as well.
Yes.
Right. So what I've shared that with you before. I said it to you before how I appreciate you, because I think you're probably the first person who allowed me to open myself, because you're bubbly and ENFP,
ENFJ.
ENFJ. Sorry, yeah, because your personality type has a lot of um, emotional depth that I have no access to. And the way that you connect with people can be challenging for me to be around, right? The way that you can be like so emotionally available for people to open up and share themselves, right? And so I've learned that from you to be okay with it and appreciate like you and people who are like you, because they're emotionally available, they're emotionally very safe to be around, because they can handle a lot of emotional depth, um, and accept people for who they are, right? And work with them emotionally. I think that's why you're brilliant as a coach is, the emotional part of you and how you love working with people and seeing them succeed and bring them up. So yeah, I just want to share that. Really appreciate you.
Oh, I so appreciate that's like the best compliment ever. And you know, that's how we can
Thank
look
you.
at how we're wired, right? Because that actually fuels me. That's what gives me energy.
Hmm.
That's my
Yeah.
unique energy source is you sharing more of, you know, who you are and what's going on for you.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and for you, like one of the things that you've gifted me with, I think we did a lot for each other. Actually, like when
We
we
did, yeah.
and the friendship that we created, because you allowed me this ability to talk about like the what ifs and the possibilities, and like go into depth with things and really contemplate at a slower level, right? Because I was so like, what's everybody doing? Like, where are we going? Like, how's everybody
Yeah.
feeling? To hang on, where my growth was what your greatest strength is, you know, in that contemplative mode, to just slow down, let's contemplate it, let's go deep in this, like let's see how it kind of takes it, where it kind of takes us. And yeah, and so I think, yeah, we spoke about this last time, but our differences and our similarities, like in the
Mm-hmm.
crossover, that's kind of the beauty. Like every single person that you meet and you connect with, you co-create something totally unique,
Wow. Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yes. Definitely.
And I love that. And that's why I don't get like I get it on the surface level, but like when people get really jealous, right, of different relationships you have with different people, and I'm like,
Mm.
there is nothing to be jealous of, right? Because
No.
what you co-create with somebody is like, it's not even comparable, it's just totally different, right?
Yeah.
And but yeah, anyway, I think that that's interesting way of looking at and appreciating our differences, and
Mm.
looking at the people that trigger us a little bit, right? Like you've said
Oh
before.
yeah, it's something that I want to talk about is because our culture can be very judgmental, because there's a lot of, like, we've been so many years under the military rule, and being cut off from a lot of like access to information, you know. So I being put under being ruled by fear.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of insecurity, and when you're coming from fear, there's a lot of judgment about, because you're only worrying about your safety, right? Your survival. So anything that you feel threatened, you're gonna shut it down, or you're gonna block it, you're gonna hate it, you're gonna judge it, so that you're not like them, so that you feel safe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So can you talk about the judgment? Sorry if I cut you off from where you were going before.
No, you didn't.
Where
Yeah. No, you didn't cut me off at all. And it's an awesome topic, and it's one of the reasons that I think it's so important to understand yourself, because the more you understand yourself, and that's looking at, you know, when you are in fear, being able to discern like when you're coming from fear, right? Like you know, and being able to identify that that's your pathway for growth, right? Like whenever we are judgmental of somebody, we have to look at it. And, you know, it could be that that person just is totally out of alignment with what you value in this world, right? It's not that
Yes.
you don't have to have, like, it's, you can't judge anybody and you have to love everybody and you have to think everybody is just perfect, right?
Of
Like
course not. Yeah.
I used to think. It's just about, hang on a minute, like there's a difference between when somebody is just out of alignment with the kind of person that you are or the things that you value, and that's okay, right? Or you're projecting fear onto them because they're highlighting different parts of yourself that you're not fully owning, right? Like that you
Yeah.
get threatened by, because it's like, you know, if you're not a very outgoing person and somebody's outgoing, you're like, oh, I don't like that, right? Because that's kind of shining light on an insecurity for you. Or
Yes.
yeah, you know, or whatever the thing is. I'm thinking of one of mine has always been closed-mindedness, right? When people are closed-minded, and yeah, that's part of my values. Like I value open-mindedness, but what I did find was I always look for the growth, right? Even if it is a judgment of value, I look for the growth. And I realized that I needed growth in terms of owning my own opinions, right? And my own judgments, right? Rather than being totally open and disconnected from, having some certainty in either direction. But it's like looking at our judgments as how we're judging ourselves, and also where we might need to grow, and also getting clarity over what we value and what's meaningful to us. Yeah, I don't know if I answered your question there, but kind of went on.
No, it's okay. I even forgot what my question was. Because I was just thinking about what you said about taking ownership, basically the shadow, right? In psychology, it's called the shadow, like your shadow self, your shadow part. We all have those parts. And owning that you have those judgmental thoughts and be okay with that. And, first is acceptance. You have to accept that you have that. Then you can work on it and on changing it, right? Transforming it, integrating it. So I think would you say the ultimate goal is integration? It's like your wholeness is you have all these parts that are, and I want to connect that to what you said about like how different people, you co-create different journey, different experience with different people, and those different people help you see different parts of you that you don't see with anyone else.
Yeah.
Right. So it's all about your integration as a person that's gonna be that you're building in terms of the character, type of person, the vision, the person that you see in your vision, the person you want to be, the person that you see as your ideal self.
Yeah.
Right. And once you have that goal of the ideal self, a lot of things are going to come and trigger you, because now you've set the goal of the vision, right? And you put out the message that that's who I want to be and that's where I want to go. So, okay, if that's where you want to go, you need to overcome all of these, integrate all of these, work through all of these challenges and obstacles. So, yeah, oh my God, so many things that we can talk about. So, where was I? What was I saying?
Well, I like what you're talking about with that integration of the self, right?
Yeah.
Like integrating from all those different relationships. Yeah.
So integration, where can I take this? There's so many directions that we can go.
Yeah.
What would be valuable for people that are watching? Your intuitive hit.
I think that I think it's really key, I think, for most people to look at, I like what you talk about, the integration of self, because it's basically all the work that I do with people, right? So basically that when people come
what I do as well.
Yeah. And the first thing I do with people when they come to me is we actually have to go back. Like we have to go and look at the past, right? And you mentioned healing.
Yes.
I look at it like, as we came into this world, parts of us kind of shattered, right? Like these parts of us kind of shattered off along our timeline. And we need to go back and we need to, take a new, fresh look at that pivotal moment in our lives, or that pivotal relationship that we had in our lives with parental figures, with friends, family, bullies, whoever kind of came into our life and kind of molded the identity that we are today. And we want to go back and we want to rewrite the story from each of those different moments in time that created who we think we are, so that we can basically come to a place where we reintegrate those shattered parts of who we were into this whole being who's not an identity that we think we are or we think we should be, but it's more of a stripping away and an integration and a conscious choice as to who it is that we resonate with being. So that now from this point, we looked at earlier having, English being the vehicle, right, to get us to the destination. But most people are trying to get clear on a destination from where they are right now. And they keep setting goals, or they keep setting the destination out there, and they wonder why they can't move forward towards it. They wonder why they keep sabotaging their success. They wonder why they keep taking a step forward and then 10 steps back and then feeling defeated. And ultimately, I see it as being because you haven't done the work to strip away that which is not you by going back throughout the timeline of your life and reintegrating as the adult that you are today, so that you can stand in the present moment with full authenticity, with full integrity with who it is that you are, so that now from this place, you're going to set a destination or a goal that's fully in alignment with what you want, with who you are. And from that place, you've actually got the fuel, like we said, to bust through the inevitable challenges and obstacles that will be on that path, and actually get the result without all the self-sabotage and falling off the wagon.
Oh God, that's so good.
That integration is getting you to a place where you're authentic.
Yep. Okay. So you're saying that's going forward, like looking forward and then going back and working on yourself and really stripping away the parts that are not you, but because you've been programmed or conditioned, right, to believe that that's you, those parts were you.
Yeah, it's like we can't, most of us want to look forward, and this is myself included, right? Like I'm a very future focused person, and I just had to realize the hard way that until I looked backwards first and I really cleared that up, so that, because I think about it as like having anchors, you know, trapped along our legs, and we're trying to move forward, but it's getting harder and harder, and we don't feel like we're getting anywhere. It's like we have to go backwards into the past, rewrite the stories, reintegrate those childish parts of who we were to grow up and become the adult that we are today, So from this place in the present, now we look forward, and now we have clarity over who it is that we are, what it is that we want, so that we have that fuel source moving forward, rather than trying to skip over the past, forget that fully, and try and
what you resist is going to persist, right? It's going to come back and haunt you. I love that what you said about how if you keep moving forward without looking back, and actually working on those parts of you, that's why you keep sabotaging yourself, because your destination is not your true destination. Because you don't know your authentic self, you can't see the destination or want the destination from your authentic self. So it's not authentic to you. It's not in alignment.
You're living somebody else's life, right? Who programmed you, right? Like your parents' life, or your society's life, or your friend's life, or your partner's life, not your own.
Would you say that's available to everybody? Because some people can say that's very idealistic, that not everybody has the resources, the time, the luxury to work on themselves in the way that we're talking about, right? People are struggling with their daily stuff. People have family. They're struggling for the living, and they don't have time to be studying and doing courses and signing up to programs after programs. What would you say to that? Like, what would be I guess practical advice for people? Not advice, but suggestion for people to start working or start exploring while they're still doing that. Because I was in that stage before, right? Working full time, and then also having exams and things like that I'm preparing for, and also studying coaching. So I know the struggle, but for people who are still at that stage, a lot of people at that stage, I would say, especially for my community, would you have anything that you want to share?
Yeah, totally. And, I am an idealist, right? That's part of my personality type. But so, yeah, I can totally get that. And what I would say is that most people try and take what they perceive to be the easy path. They look at personal development as that's too hard, right? Like, I don't have time. I've got bills to pay. I got, you know, I've got kids to feed, I've got a job to go to, all of that sort of stuff. And they look at personal development or the time that they invest in themselves as like, that's the hard path, right? Because it's very confronting as well. It's not only going to maybe cost you money, it's going to cost you time, it's going to cost you energy. But here's what I would
It's gonna
say.
bring up a lot of shit
It brings up a
you
lot
don't
of,
want to look at.
yeah, perfectly said. And so basically I see it this way. The easy path, which is to just avoid that and don't focus on it and just get by with what you think is more important. The easy path always becomes the hardest path in the long run.
So true. I love that.
And what you perceive as being the hardest path, which is, oh my God, like, okay, I've got to do what I got to do in life to pay the bills, to get by, to get to the job, to, you know, look after the family. And I am going to prioritize my own personal development, my own self-awareness, my own well-being, and my own growth towards my potential. That might be the hardest path, but the hardest path always becomes the easiest path in the long run. Because, and I've, you know, I witness people on this journey, you know, I've witnessed people on this journey for a long time. The ones who take the hard path, which is to incorporate their personal development and prioritize their reaching their potential, you know, or, you know, discovering themselves, building self-awareness, those are the ones who excel down the timeline. And all the ones who thought, nah, I don't have time for that, that's not important, or, you know, whatever, or it's just too hard. Those ones who are still struggling, and not even just still struggling, their well-being is gone downhill.
And they'll keep struggling. It's going to get worse.
That's right. So that's exactly why I would point everybody who's maybe new to personal development, go and just, you know, learn about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Watch a YouTube. Yep. I've done a couple of free trainings. Like if people want to watch one of those, I'll put a link there or whatever. But and it's just to introduce you to why it's so important, because you have to have the big picture in mind, right? Yeah. Too many of us are going surface level, day to day, just trying to get by, and we miss the bigger picture. And then, you know, that's why the number one regret of the dying is I wish I had have had the courage to live a life true to myself rather than one I felt was expected of me. Excuse me.
Oh, yeah.
You know, okay. Because that self-awareness and that self-knowledge, you know, it's easier in most people's minds to just be who they think they need to be and do what they think they need to do to look after the family, to get by, to have the job. But they'll get to the end of their life realizing they didn't map out meaning. Excuse me. They didn't map out the clarity, like who they are, what they want. And the ones who are successful and fulfilled, you know, because life's about fulfillment. It's not about just getting by. It's about, you know, discovering what moves you, creating a life where you can be proud of yourself. You can create real meaning. You can get to the end of your life and go, you know what, like I gave it all I had, right? I created real meaning. I left an impact with whether that's, it doesn't have to be on a global scale. It can be just with your family, the legacy that you're living. And if you take the time to get the bigger picture, that's why go to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, just Google that, you look on YouTube, it'll put everything into perspective for you, and you'll be motivated to incorporate your own self-growth and your own development. And you'll see that if you want to fast track your fulfillment in this life, you've got to take a bigger perspective and focus on meaning. And if you skip over that, you're creating a life really in the ultimate long scheme of things, one that you will have regrets from. So that's kind of how I feel about that. But yeah, I hope that, I mean, I'm still very idealistic. That's just how I'm wired, right?
No, that's awesome. Yeah, I love that you share that, because I want to connect that to relate it back to what you said about knowing your type. knowing yourself,
Yeah.
right? Because knowing yourself, you know how to make your contribution in your own unique way. So like people like Elon Musk, right? Not everybody's going to start a, you know, electric car company and a rocket company and, you know, making, you know, the world intergalactic. That's not everybody's contribution, right? So knowing yourself in your own, like you said, like raising a child to be someone who's upright, you know, contributing citizen is a contribution, right? And there's no comparing a mother's contribution to someone who's like maybe a president, right? It's just the way that you want to, that what feels authentic to you, right?
And that's ultimately why, so if you can look at, you know, both of our journeys kind of like, you know, kind of being on a bit of a shaky path, like where are we going?
Yeah.
What are we doing? And, you know, it's like based on my experience, like, and then having to find and search, because I know what it is to not know, like what it, like what it is that you want to do with your life, who it is that you are. And so that's why, yeah, I could talk all day, as you know by now, you know, about these kind of frameworks, because they give you that clarity, that direction, right? That unique, tailored way of, oh, that's where my meaning is. That's how I get to the end of my life feeling fulfilled. That's it. It cuts out a lot of the groundwork for you. So go about learning and developing and mastering the particular areas that are in alignment with what inspires you most, without having to go and test it all out, right? Like you can have that map given to you.
Yeah, definitely. I have so many things that your turn. What do you wanna? Where do you wanna take it? What do you wanna?
Yeah.
Let me know if you wanna rest. Okay, your throat. Is your throat okay?
No, I'm good. I'm good. I'm just trying not. It'd probably be sorted out if I did just a big cough, but I'm just like trying
Yeah.
to light.
Trying to resist it. That's why it's persistent. It's
I don't know, like you know, I'd love to go into the realm of I think last time we were talking about the Enneagram, might be a little bit like off, it might be a little bit deep right now for people, I'm not sure, but
I think we just put it out there, and then we may, you know, go deeper next time
yeah,
if given the opportunity.
yeah.
So can you just briefly just list out the types? Like 9 Enneagram is easier, right? So 9 types.
Well, yes and no. So there's
Well,
9 types and then it goes
yes,
into like 27.
like
So it's like,
how deep the rabbit hole goes, right?
and then it goes beyond that, but I don't know
It
beyond.
goes beyond that, yeah. Kind
Um,
of get.
but before we go into it, because I look at the Enneagram kind of being, it's a lot more of a kind of slap in the face than Myers-Briggs type indicator, right? Because Myers-Briggs is like, let's discover your genius and what your greatest strengths are and how brilliant you are. And the Enneagram is kind of like a rude awakening. At least it was for me. It's like it's a bit of a harder pill to swallow, because it looks at more of your trauma and it and gets you focused on that. But you mentioned just before you wanted to kind of talk about healing and about trauma, I think came into it. And I know that's like a really key area of your expertise. So I was wondering, yeah, if I could ask you, like, why do you think that, do you think that we all have an experienced trauma? And how can we all heal from it? And if so, like, what would you suggest is the importance of healing from our trauma?
Oh God.
It's a really big question.
Yeah, no, that's fine. It's just giving me so many things to talk about, because how important is healing trauma in finding your true self? Because I think that's a big part of self-acceptance is is healing those parts of you that you rejected because of the trauma. Because what trauma does is, trauma in a sense is just, in a very simple sense, is just something that affected your, like you said, shattered you.
Yeah.
Shattered your sense of self, your belief, your values, your worldview. Something that's unexpected. So it can be, you know, physical, mental, emotional, sexual, right? Because now I think a lot of more people are becoming aware of like child sexual abuse here in our country, right? And so the sexual trauma and because I was actually just, you know, this book, Free Your Body, Louise Hay, because she's been instrumental, I guess, in this awareness, bringing awareness to people about the importance of healing. Because cancer, she's been abused. She grew up in a very toxic and abusive environment. She's been sexually abused as a child. Later she got cancer, and then healed herself because she learned all these, I guess, mindset shifting and working through her emotions, because a lot of the trauma are stored in the body, in emotion that are unconscious. So if you see the world as conscious and unconscious, conscious is just the tip of the iceberg, right? We were saying before, like the diagram, just the tip of the iceberg, and our unconscious control like 90-something% of our reality, I would say, right? So right now your heart rate is being controlled by your unconscious part of you, your nervous system, right? Everything is being regulated unconsciously. So you can just focus on things that are important to you. So when a trauma happens, it goes into the unconscious mostly, especially if it's like physical and emotional, right? I'm just simplifying it in a sense, in the way that I think will help. It will be helpful for people to understand. So the healing is, like you said, going back through your timeline to the time where the trauma happened. And you can do it yourself, but it's safer to do it something that who can guide you, especially if your trauma is severe, like sexual abuse, like physical abuse, PTSD, right? Post PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Some would say response, because some people don't like that term. So anytime you have like an accident or any form of emotional abuse, being name called at school, being bullied, right? Those are traumatic experiences. So there's something called ACE, Adverse Childhood Experiences, I think which has been adopted by WHO as World Health Organization as a assessment to help people see whether they've had ACE in their life, so that they can help heal them, to actually help heal the physical symptoms that are being caused by ACE. So obesity is related to ACE, diabetes, heart disease, all these later physical symptoms mostly are caused by childhood adverse experiences. Mm-hmm. Right? So people grew up in neglectful environment. A child who hasn't been emotionally taken care of, the parents are emotionally absent, because of whatever reason that's going on when they were growing up. Those could be traumatic experiences for the child, but they don't know it, right? And CPTSD is also something that's connected to mostly emotionally abusive environment. Mm. So like domestic violence and things like that. So complex PTSD is related to, I guess, mostly emotionally being abusive. Someone who grew up in that environment, or someone who's currently in that environment, like an abusive relationship, toxic relationship, someone who's been gaslighted constantly in their relationship by their partner or by their parents or by someone, because the people, another important point about healing the trauma is so that you don't give it to the people that are around you. What I love about what I think Jung said is, what was it? Making the unconscious conscious. If you don't make the unconscious conscious, you'll call it fate, and it will direct your life.
Yeah.
Right. So the way that your life is going is being created by your unconscious patterns in the past.
Yeah.
So that's how you create your reality. So if your reality is not the reality that you want, that means you need to go back and look at those and healing those traumas. I don't know if I answered any of your questions, but I just went on a long
I think that was so
monologue.
I think that was so valuable for people to hear, because that's why it's so important to go back into our past, and particularly it's scary for people because I don't know a single human being who hasn't experienced some sort of adversity in their childhood, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
we need to look at it subjectively, right? Because you can be like me, and I think I might have mentioned this our last conversation, but I just thought, I don't need to go back into my past. I've got nothing to heal. I had a great childhood, because I hear other people's stories, and a lot of people that I work with, I've helped people battle some very traumatic experiences. And if we compare ourselves to others' stories, we don't do the necessary healing work. We don't bring consciousness to the unconscious that is directing the course of our life, like you just said, right? Like, and so we need to be able to go and know that you're a child. We're all children who lacked emotional intelligence and experience, who had different things happen to us in our lives. And it could have ranged from somebody close to you saying something to you to physically doing something to you that had an adverse effect on you as a subjective human being, right? It's personal to you. How you respond to it that determines whether it's traumatic or not somebody else's judgment of what a traumatic experience is.
Yeah.
And basically doing the healing work on that, having the courage to go back and get support and guidance to go back to those sort of times in your life so that you can heal the past, so that you don't continue to perpetuate that cycle for future generations. And we've all heard the term hurt people, right?
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, you want the buck to stop with you. If you back to the people who are like, hey, I don't think I have time to like do this work because I got a family to look after. The best thing you could ever do for your family is to heal yourself. Best gift that you could give to the people that you love is a phenomenal relationship with yourself, so that you're not projecting your pain onto others, and instead you're actually able to be there and be caring to another human being. You've got a capacity to see them and hold space for their pain, because if you don't heal your own, anybody around you has pain. It's like you've got to, like Tony Robbins would use the analogy of having a huge wound on your arm, and somebody like just has to touch with a feather and it's so painful, right? When you're in pain and you're around, you can't hold space for other people to just be who they are and express the truth of who they are and what their experience is. And so you can't actually connect with anyone because you're not connected to yourself.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's so valuable. Because I just had a personal client of mine, a private client of mine. I was talking to her, and she just mentioned some, because we did some work around her childhood stuff, and now she was saying that she was able to connect with people more because she's connected to herself. And another thing that she brought up was like people are opening up to her about their own traumas that she had and she healed, right, throughout sessions. And she was asking, so why is that? Like, I've never had people talking to me about these things before. And I said, it's because you've healed your own trauma. So now you're not judging it anymore, and you can hold space for people, and unconscious people sense that. You
Totally.
know, I think it's so important for the world peace that we all want, for people to be, you know, working together, contributing to the growth and thriving of the communities, the countries, the world, right? It's to stop that judgment, and judgment of another is to stop the judgment of yourself. And the way you do that is through healing all these wounds and the shadows that you've had growing up for whatever reason, because that's also part of your life purpose, I think, right? Is, you know, it's to, if you want to be able to give more of yourself, you have to give yourself first, until, because you can't give from an empty vessel, an empty self,
Totally.
right? You have all these shadow parts that are, you know, pulling you in different directions, because people want to, you know, help, want to give. You know, in our culture, Burmese people,
Mhm.
our culture is it's all about helping another, right? It's about helping the community. There's a lot of like humanitarian work being done by a lot of people, but the people who are doing them hurt themselves sometimes. So if people were to focus on healing themselves, giving to themselves, and taking that time that they need to actually, you know, become whole, it will be more effective, I guess.
Totally.
Or yeah.
Yeah. And what I'm hearing you say as well, you know, kind of everything that we've been talking into, like at the end of the day, like we want to access true fulfillment in our lives. We want to make sure that we get to the end of our lives feeling like we lived it fully. We created real meaning. You know,
Mm-hmm.
we are grateful for the time that we got to experience on the planet, right? And so we need a vehicle. We need to know what purpose is, like that meaningful purpose for us. That's
Mm-hmm.
what gives us the fulfillment when we align with that. But what
Mm-hmm.
you just said earlier, you know, your pain is your purpose, right? Like it's your potential purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have to do the work on the pain. Like that's why we want to go back, right? Because your pain is in the past, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if we can identify, you know, what are those pain points, they're leading you to the growth and the development and what you find meaningful, right? And then when you overcome those challenges, when you transform that pain into purpose, right? That's it gives you the direction that you want in your life, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and that's I think that's what we're all striving for. Like we all need meaning as human beings. We all want to feel like we contribute, like you just
Mm-hmm.
mentioned. We need to
Yeah.
we're growing and we're contributing in order to create fulfillment in our lives. And so there's no better place to focus on if you want to contribute and make a meaningful difference in the lives of others is to focus on identifying where your pain is and tapping into the potential of that, transforming yourself and making that your purpose. And it doesn't have to be, you know, a lot of people get caught up thinking, oh, well, how am I going to make money out of that thing, right? And that might not be how you're wired. It's just,
Mm-hmm.
let's get you to the best place possible, you know. So like your client that you mentioned, she might be somebody who, you know, totally would love and be fulfilled to become a coach and work with people and help them heal in the ways that she's healed. Or she might totally not be, but what it's doing is allowing her to get to a space where she can be a more full expression of who she is and channel
Definitely.
energy in the direction that she's most inspired by. And
Mm-hmm.
guaranteed she'd be finding fulfillment in the people that she's attracting right now who are opening up to her in a very meaningful way. Even if she doesn't, you know, make a career path out of it, it's still very fulfilling for us as human beings to feel like we can actually gift other people with our knowledge or our experience and what
Mm-hmm.
we've done. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Definitely. I love that what you said about how your purpose, your pain is part of your purpose, right? And your potential is in there. Because the again, I think going back to a little bit of boo-boo spiritual stuff is you grew up, you were born into the family you were born into for you to realize your purpose only, through, how do I say this? Because they are going to help you, they're going to create the pain for you, and you heal those pains, and you learn the message, whatever the message that you're supposed to give and share is going to be in those pain that you go back and look at and heal and deal with. Because another point about trauma is every trauma has a message in it that you can't see unless you heal it.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, and I think it was you who actually told me a few years ago that, and I think maybe you were telling me that it came from DeMartini, but you were born into your family in order to teach them how to love unconditionally as well, right?
Mm.
And so I'm not sure if it was you or not, but I have a feeling it was.
You had I might have said it, but I think that's what I believe as well. But I think I might have said it in a different way. I can't remember exactly, but yeah, I think it's important for people to know that wherever they are right now is perfect for them.
Yes.
Right? Doesn't mean that you have to stay there,
yeah.
but it's teaching you something that you need to learn.
Yes.
So that you can grow, and maybe the hero's journey, right? Yeah. You have to battle the dragon, kill the dragon, get the treasure, and come back and help the people that the community that you're from in the first place.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's where I'm at right now is I've gone through the journey of struggling with myself, a lot of self-esteem, low self-confidence, and not being able to articulate and communicate, let alone let alone in English, but in my native language, Burmese, right? So I've gone through the journey of looking at myself and actually learning. So what I'm teaching people right now through the course that I'm creating, which is teaching people the importance of learning phonetics, which is using those squiggly symbols, in the dictionary, because people can't pronounce words accurately. And they do it in the wrong, they pronounce them in the wrong, incorrect pronunciation, and people don't understand them, and they lose confidence and then also they don't hear when people say, when they listen to podcasts or whatever the native speakers are saying, because the pronunciation is very different from what the native speakers are saying, right? Which is also part of why I want to do this in English, is because I want to let people start, getting used to how native speakers talk. And so through the course that I'm creating is helping them build the foundation of actually getting the English level, the language level, to whatever level that they want to take it to. But solid foundation is, because that's been my experience. I have 3 teachers that taught me. One is my father. The other one is taught me phonetics, so that I can speak and listen and communicate at the, I think, proficiency and fluency that I'm at right now, right? So part of sharing that has been going back and looking at my pain in how I used to struggle. Because I get emotional talking about that, because last night I was just doing a live video for my group, because I know once they go past this block, this level of obstacle that they're struggling with, like the world opens up, because with English you have access to so much more opportunities, right? Anything that you want access, you can learn, because right now they have no access to all these amazing information because the language is at a certain level, right? So part of what I'm doing is also giving them all these mindset stuff, the healing stuff, right? Teaching them how to get rid of all these negative beliefs, and doing things like tapping EFT on themselves so that they can start, at least control the emotion, starting to get control of the emotion so that they can at least, be in a space where they can start to study, or, just have no anxiety, basically. Yeah, because that has been what I struggle with all my life, is the anxiety, the anxiety, the social anxiety, the anxiety I feel when I communicate, right? So yeah, I guess.
Well, it's amazing that you're doing that, because think about how difficult it is to learn when you're in a state of stress. Right?
Yeah.
So if you're not like, that's so awesome that you're doing that, right? Like, you're not just teaching people English, you're helping them to learn it for real, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
you're tapping into clearing like the stressful elements of all those fears and insecurities. And again, it was your pain that's become your potential, and now you're on purpose living into it by helping navigate that, so that they can get into the particular part of their brain that they need to, in order to take in that information and really build upon it. So I think that's awesome what you're doing. And I think like, imagine that was taught in schools. Like, imagine
Yeah.
that, like, that's necessary. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
what you're doing.
I've been getting so many messages from people because I give them like 2 of my bonus courses that I did. One is on English, but another one is the self-mastery, right? Transformation to self-mastery, a group coaching that I did. And I just give them as a bonus who sign up to my new program, learning to pronounce, learning the pronunciation correctly, system, right? So because I want them to get the tools that they need to actually help them learn and be master of themselves. Because learning, it takes a lot of total personal responsibility to get to a level where you become proficient at something, right? Would you say that? Can you talk about the responsibility part? Because a lot of people don't know how to take responsibility. They don't know how to ask for help. If they ask for help, they don't do anything with the advice or the guidance that they get because they are not taking responsibility. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, you're touching on one of, I think, the most important aspects of our growth as individuals. Because
Yes.
until you get to a point where you take 100% responsibility for your own life, you're not going anywhere, right? Like, you can't stay stuck, even in the past, in past circumstances that you didn't control, that happened to you, even being born in Burma, so your English wasn't your first language, right? Like, you have to take responsibility for that. You have to go, hey, this is where I'm at, and this is the life that I'm living. I didn't get to choose where I was born, right? Like, I feel grateful, and we can all be grateful for where we're born, and what languages we're born into, and all of those sort of things. But at some point we have to go, what, like, I'm an adult, no matter what has happened in the past. I have to take responsibility for where I'm at, no matter who did what or who didn't do what. And
Yep.
honestly, like, learning the 100% responsibility rule changed everything for me, because I could no longer get by with being under responsible for myself. I couldn't continue to
And
be.
they're responsible. I like that.
Well, I look at it from NLP, right? Neuro
Yep.
linguistic programming. So one of the patterns that we can have as human beings is we can be over responsible for other people, and be under responsible for ourselves. So this is how it plays out, and this is a pattern of mine that I've had to become 100% responsible for, which is, if I could manage you, if I could make you feel okay, Thurein, then I'd be okay, right? That's me being, and then if you're in a bad mood or you're like not feeling good, then I'm like, what am I going to do? Or like I'm walking on eggshells, or I'm like, how am I going to feel okay? But what's happening at that point is I'm being overly responsible for you, because you're an adult who can manage your own emotional states, right? And I'm simultaneously being under responsible for myself. What happens is, and I can look at my past, right? Like I can look at, I had a dad who doesn't do emotions, right? Unless
mine either.
No. So yeah, you can probably resonate with what it is to be a kid who is on edge, right? Like you're walking on eggshells. Like, I don't know what dad's mood's going to be. I don't know how
when he's going to explode.
Exactly. And so that taught me the pattern of being over responsible for him. And simultaneously, I don't know who I am. I'm not connected to my own emotions because they're going to get in the way. They could create conflict. So I'm just going to be managing. I'm going to be the happy kid who manages everybody else, so that, and takes all that responsibility on my shoulders about other people's emotional states. And simultaneously, that's why I got to a place where I didn't know who I was or what I wanted or all the rest of it. And it wasn't until I took 100% responsibility for where my life was going that I actually started creating the life that I live now. And I mean, that even happened more recently, where I had a coach of mine ask me about the relationship that I was in and say, you know what, Vanessa, like, if this relationship still isn't what you want it to be in 5 years from now, that's not his responsibility. That's not his fault. That's yours. You're choosing to be where you are and do what you do, right? And so, I'm a big believer in, you have to take 100% responsibility for your learning. You have to, nobody else is going to come and save you. Nobody's coming to make you successful. Nobody's coming to build. Nobody was born to make you feel good. That's all up to you. And we can't keep handballing that responsibility to our loved ones, because our loved ones are other imperfect human beings trying to get by and trying to do their best. And if we all just stood up and took 100% responsibility for who we are, where our life is at, how we feel, then the world would be a much better, more connected place, where we weren't projecting our pain onto others, but we were actually supportive of one another. So
and that can't happen without healing yourself.
No, that's where that's where your responsibility starts.
You
step out of being a victim of your circumstances and you step into be the creator of your future.
Can you talk about, oh my God, the responsibility, and I want to connect that back to relate it back to healing and doing it for you so that you don't pass it on to your family, right? Because what I was thinking was, what came to mind when you said that was like people walking on eggshells. For someone who can't control their own emotions, someone who explodes occasionally because of their trauma and because of their own not understanding that they have control over their own emotion, right? And they're blaming people for triggering them and making them angry. Right. And that has an effect on the kids or the people that are around them. So that can also be a traumatic experience for people that are around them, right? So that's one point. Another point is taking responsibility. Can you just give one, say, practical strategy or advice or suggestion as to how to deal with, so when you're blaming, right? When you're blaming people, it's like people make me angry, right? You always do this to me. Yeah. So all these language in terms of because you talk about NLP, so it's all about language and unconscious communication and language. So what does it say? It's like, how do you start to change that language pattern of like, you're making me angry. You always do this to me. So I'm the victim and you have the control and you do this to me and you make me angry, right? So you're responsible for my emotion. You're responsible for the way that I'm feeling right now.
Yeah.
Right. For the negative emotion that I'm feeling. So how do you start to shift that? So when you're blaming people or making people responsible for how you're feeling, because it can be very unconscious, and for people who are new to this concept of personal responsibility, at 100% personal responsibility, where do you want to start?
Well, I would say that we'd take it back to absolute basics, and all transformation starts with self-awareness, right? Like, you can't skip over that part, right? Like, you're not going to change unless you become conscious of it, right? So at least not consciously transform in the direction that you want, right? So I wouldn't even go to NLP. I would look at the drama triangle. And that, again, is such a great entry point for people to build self-awareness, particularly in taking responsibility in relationship dynamics where
I love that.
if you got people annoying you and making you angry and you're blaming people or whatever, a simple look at what the drama triangle is will give you some self-awareness. And what you're wanting to do, step one, go look at YouTube for the drama triangle, watch a video on it. We can talk about it now too. It's very simple. And then you also want to couple that with, then you want to look at the empowerment dynamic, because that's the part of growth. You've got to have self-awareness. You got to know where you are on the map. That's identifying where you are on the drama triangle. And then you want to go, where do I want to get to? The destination, which is the empowerment dynamic. And then you can start closing the gap through conscious awareness. So basically, the drama triangle is something that was developed, I think back in the, I want to say 50s, but it might have been the 70s actually, for Alcoholics Anonymous. So it was to help people who were dealing with an alcoholic person in their family and, you know, creating a lot of drama and how do we navigate this? And basically the whole framework can be applied to every single human being's relationships, no matter what.
Definitely.
So if you can picture a triangle, at each point on the triangle, there's a particular place, there's a particular role that all of us go to all of these, but we're going to have one that stands out the most for us. And in every drama that we have in a relationship dynamic, we're playing these different roles. So number one, we have a victim, right? So the victim is the one that's you blaming, right? Anytime you are blaming somebody else, saying they always do this, they never do that, I can't be happy because they do this or whatever, right? Like, we're blaming somebody else. This is when we are taking 0% responsibility, right? We are not in the driver's seat of our lives. We are in total disempowerment. Anytime you are blaming, you are not taking responsibility. And the reason why you want to be aware of that is you're giving your power away. If you don't have your power by taking responsibility, you're giving it to somebody else. And so you want to be conscious of that, and you want to not play the victim, right? Now I'll just map out the drama triangle, then we'll go to what the trend.
I'm just trying to see if I can bring up my iPad through my thing so that I can start helping people picture what you're saying. So keep talking, keep sharing what you're sharing. That's brilliant. Thank you. Because it's a very simple framework to help people see where they're at, to to help them become more self-aware.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I can put it on the whiteboard or something if you want to, like on the share screen, or you.
Okay. And I think I'll just do it here.
Okay.
Let me see if I can. Yep.
Yep. Okay. So we've got the drama triangle down the bottom. Usually we've got
So is that like this?
no, it's the other way.
How would you draw it?
That would be the empowerment dynamic. So yeah, draw it the other way. So the point down. Yeah, perfect.
Yep. So this is the empowerment.
Yeah. So in that top bottom point, we want to put the victim.
Okay. Here's I need to make it a little bit bigger. Okay, victim.
Yeah. So that's one role. And then say on the left-hand corner, we'll have the rescuer is another role that gets played. So you can't have a victim. You can't have a rescuer without a victim, right? So we're going to have a rescuer there. Now, what the rescuer does is basically in the drama of the relationship, it's like, oh my gosh, like my partner or this person, they're like blaming me. Now I'm gonna make them feel okay, or I'm gonna just like do whatever I can to people please.
To use your
Right.
To use what you said earlier, being over responsible, and the victim is being under responsible.
Totally, you got it.
Awesome.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like victim is 0% responsibility, rescuer is 200%. I'm taking like all the responsibility right here.
Yeah.
And in the final place we have the persecutor.
Okay.
Over in the other corner, and the persecutor is kind of the one that, like, again, it likes having a victim too, because it wants to, this is the one that gaslights, that puts down, like verbally criticizes, diminishes the self-esteem of somebody else.
Yeah, the bully.
The bully, yeah, you could look at the bully, exactly. And they are, so in this scenario, nobody is taking responsibility for themselves, right? Nobody's taking responsibility for themselves. They're just looking to somebody else to be the solution, right? Like if the persecutor is saying, if I can bring somebody down, I'll feel better. The rescuer is saying, if I can save somebody, I'll feel better. If I'm helpful, I'll feel better. And the victim is saying, if I can blame somebody else, I'll feel better, right? But nobody's taking responsibility, so it just perpetuates the drama.
Oh God.
And each of us has a particular place on this map that we tend to go to. We go through all of them. There's a time when we're playing the victim. There's a time when we're rescuing. There's a time when we're the perpetrator. But we have a sweet spot. Mine is the rescuer. But I can go to the persecutor. I hate going to the victim. Like the victim's been probably my last place that I want to go to. But you're playing a victim in all of these parts, really. But it's interesting because when you can first learn about the fact that anytime you've got a drama, you're playing one of these roles and somebody else is playing a different one, identifying, right? Remember, self-awareness is the first step to all transformation. So identify where you are, and, in your example, Thurein, like the person was really a victim, right? They were like blaming everybody else or blaming somebody else.
Yeah, you do this to me. I'm not responsible. You are responsible for my misery and pain.
Yeah. And so the victim wants a rescuer and the rescuer wants a victim, right?
Oh God.
Right? So dark, right? When I learned about being, because I thought I was such a good person being the rescuer, until I realized if I want to be a rescuer and feel needed, I need a victim. So you kind of perpetuate the cycle of the victim by enabling their behavior.
I think I just want to add something. about what you said about being conditioned to be a rescuer, especially, would you say women are more, they tend to be rescuers
Yeah.
because that's the role of the mother archetype, is all about, you know, giving, and
Yeah.
helping.
Yeah. It's kind of like, I look at it this way. I look at the victim as the child. I look at the rescuer as the mother, and I look at the
Ooh.
persecutor as the father,
Oh
right?
my God, this is the family dynamic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, the victim's not fending for themselves. The rescuer's like mum that's like, no, you can't say that to them. Like, you know, I love them unconditionally. And the persecutor's the dad, like, step up to your potential. Like, what the hell are you doing? Right. Like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so yeah, but there's that dynamic in it. But like I said, we play all of these roles as well.
Yeah. Would you say that you play all of that, all of those roles within yourself as well? It's like when you, because that I think that would be the way that I think I've said it before. I actually added that in my program as well as a bonus, because that's part of what I want people to understand as well, is this. Thank you for teaching us, you know, helping people become aware of this, because this is so important. And so going back to what you were saying before, sorry, I cut you off with the mother thing.
Yeah, no, that's all I kind of had to say about that, really. But it's
Okay.
a good way of looking at it. But just, yeah, just try and identify, you know, which one you play. So if you can look at maybe the last drama that you had, or fight that you had, or argument or disagreement that you had in a relationship, and go, oh, like, what role was I playing? Was I being the
Yeah.
who was taking no responsibility and just blaming? Was I being the persecutor who was just criticizing, judging, bringing somebody down? Or
Mm.
was I being the rescuer? Oh, I was too afraid to even say what my truth was. I just wanted them to feel okay, or I was just walking on eggshells, or I was just, you know, like going over and above, like just trying to make them okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you can identify that. What role have you necessarily played more so?
I think I'll play I used to play the victim,
Uh-huh.
um, and go to my mom. Well, within my family dynamic, I would say, is because my dad's kind of emotionally a bit challenged in terms of how, you know, he has his own traumas and stuff. So how, especially in Asian families, you know how Asian dads are, right? And German as well, I would say. Right. So it's interesting how, you know, how it plays out in the international politics as well, I would say, is,
Yeah,
you know, it'd be
absolutely.
interesting to look at that. um, the countries,
Yeah, absolutely.
China, America, anyways.
Yeah,
So to answer your question, yeah, I think I used to go to the victim, and
yeah,
then I go to persecutor, because it's the, you know, because I think I'll go to rescue as well, but not as much.
yeah.
Um, I have a tendency to people please as well, because I think as an HSP, like someone who's sensitive, like highly sensitive person, that has been part of, I think, my trauma as well, is people telling me that I'm too sensitive.
Yeah,
So I can be emotional very easily, very sensitive to, you know, sounds and noises, and loud noises,
yeah.
and a lot of other things. So what was I getting at?
That was they're the roles that you mainly play.
Mm. I would just say victim,
Yeah.
not knowing how to take responsibility,
Yes.
right? So that's the awareness. So how would you say, give one maybe strategy for each one to get out of that, the role that they're playing?
So let's draw up the empowerment dynamic, because the empowerment dynamic
Love it.
growth. And that's how once we have the awareness, and you can use this model, you know, as you go throughout any challenge that you experience, and then go, okay,
Mm-hmm.
here's the map out. Once I have the awareness, all right, I'm playing the victim. So the way out of the victim will become now the top of that triangle. And the way out of the victim is always to become the creator of your life.
Nice.
Right? So that means if you identify as the victim, you go, okay, I'm playing the victim, step one, self-awareness, and then go, okay, the way out. So where I am on the map is I'm at the victim place. Where I want to get to is the creator. And how I get to the creator is always taking 100% responsibility for what I want my life to be about, right? Because the victim is letting the world outside of it create its life, right? It's like, well, you did this, that's why I feel this.
Yeah.
Or they did that, so I can't do this, right? So you're letting the outside world create your destiny rather than becoming the creator, 100% responsibility. What do I want? You know, what can I do to change this? Right? So it's looking at the action that you can take to become the creator instead of the victim.
Yeah.
So just briefly.
So that's identify action that you can take.
Yes. Well, you identify where you want to get to. So the self-awareness of being the victim, and then you identify where you want to get to, which is the creator.
Okay. Identify the role that you want to desire role.
Yes. Yeah. That's it. And then action to close the gap.
Okay. Number 3 is action. Okay. So that's 3 steps.
Yes.
So identify for a victim to go to the creator of their life, which is you have control over your life and you're creating your life the way that you want it to.
Yep.
So self-awareness, and then identifying that, okay, I want to become a creator.
Yes.
Actually, hearing those labels actually give you inspiration and empowerment. Yeah. That's why empowerment triangle. So who's the creator of this model framework? I just want to make sure we give credit to.
Yeah, I forget the names, but it started with Alcoholics Anonymous. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, whoever created this, we probably look it up and add a reference to.
Yes.
Yeah. I
I
know the author, but
it's called Karpman.
Karpman. Yeah.
Karpman. Yeah.
Karpman model, right? That's what it's called as well.
Karpman drama triangle. Now with the empowerment dynamic, I'd have to look that up as well. But anyway, we'll maybe add that later.
We'll do that later. Yeah. So
then
the empowerment, and then the other 2 roles, rescue and persecutor, would be.
Yeah. So the rescuer, that now becomes, instead of trying to save other people at the expense of who you are, you now become the coach. So the rescuer becomes the coach. Now, what does a coach do? A coach doesn't take over and try and get somebody their results. A coach is like the cheerleader. It's like, hey, I am walking my talk. I am taking 100% responsibility for my own life, and I'm showing you what's possible. And then I'm also going, hey, I'm standing by your side. I'm getting you to, I'm helping you and supporting you to become the creator of your life, right? You can do it. All right. I'm doing it. You can do it. It's like, I'm taking 100% responsibility for my results. You can see that. And now I'm showing you and I'm encouraging you, instead of trying to rescue and save you, instead of trying to give you what you want, right? That's not necessarily healthy. I'm going to give you what you need, right? That's
so the coach is also coming from the outside and not stepping over the boundary to say you need to do this, but say, hey,
exactly,
if this is what you want, what do you think you should do? And then just basically guiding them from the sideline and not taking over.
Role modeling what it looks like to be a
role
creator,
modeling,
right?
Nice. I love that, role model.
Absolutely.
Okay, so the coach, and then do you have something else to add?
I was just going to say, with what you just mentioned there, like a coach knows where they end and that begins, right? There's the two people rather than the codependence that happens with a rescuer and a victim.
Yeah, there's a very clear boundary.
Absolutely. Perfectly. Yeah. Yeah. And then
Awesome. We
last
have
one.
some questions coming up. Great questions, Bella. We'll probably answer them at the end.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll tie this one off with the
last one.
Persecutor becoming the challenger, right?
Challenger.
Yeah. So instead of the persecutor just tearing somebody down, right? They then can use their skill set, of being able to critique a situation, right, without being critical. They're like, they can challenge somebody to become their best, not by tearing them down and focusing on what's terrible about them, right, and pushing them into that victim mode, but instead they're going like that healthy fatherly love, which is, hey, I see your potential. I'm challenging you to step toward it. I'm not saying you're a terrible human being because you're not at your potential, like you're this and that and being critical. I'm critiquing in an empowered approach of not letting you settle, right? Like, 'cause I want to challenge you to be your best. And that's what the persecutor can shift into. So with each of them are using, their kind of tendencies in a healthy approach.
Love it.
Yeah. And like you said earlier, we all want these parts of ourselves within, right? It's not just about our dynamic outside. It's like we want to become our own creator. We want to become our own coach. We want to become our own challenger. To me, it's like the healthy masculine and feminine sides of ourselves integrated.
Yeah, that's awesome. So the
Child.
coach is the masculine, the challenger is challenger is the masculine.
Yeah.
Which is about direction, which is about discipline. Yeah.
And
this is amazing.
The victim is the inner child that you've now healed, right? So
yes.
Yeah, so we've got the masculine side, becoming the challenger. We've got the feminine side becoming the coach, and now we've got the child becoming the creator. So, it's a good way. It's a really good, simple kind of clear way of looking at building our self-awareness and having a pathway for growth.
Yep, this is amazing. But because you can easily identify where your awareness, where your consciousness is, and what role you're playing in the drama that you're creating in your life. Because many people are creating drama and they don't know it, right? They don't know that that's what they're doing, and creating drama with other people, even on Facebook, right? All these comment wars and and things. So thank you for sharing this. This is such a good model to keep in mind.
I've actually just for anybody who's interested in this, I've done a whole masterclass on this drama triangle to apply to your relationships and your own personal life. So if anybody's interested, that's in the Limitless Potential Academy. So if any of your audience is watching, I would waive the joining fee just for.
Oh wow!
So
that's so kind of you. Thank you so much. So if anyone, how do they go to your your page just for the masterclass? To access the masterclass,
to get the masterclass, if they reach out to me personally, because I'll waive the fee, the joining fee, which is $97 US.
Oh wow!
So if they wanted,
generous.
I'd have to do it for them. So so they can do that. Yeah, of course. I love.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing this for my people.
Of course.
So if anyone's watching, right, who wants Vanessa's masterclass on this, how to apply this in relationship, they contact you.
Yeah, just shoot me a message and just say I'd like to get access to the masterclasses.
Yes, and you're from Thurein's audience.
Yes, exactly.
Yep. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Any friend of Thurein's is a friend of mine.
You're amazing. All right. So do you want to get to the questions, or is there anything else that you want to tie up and loose ends?
I think that's good. I hope that's
Everything
valuable. Yeah.
that's super valuable, right? Even for me, because I've this is so unconscious to me. I don't take the way to verbalize it, to articulate the way that you teach it. It's so valuable, like even for me. So thank you.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. Cool.
Yeah.
Love it.
Awesome. So do you want to answer some questions? I know it's 2 hours and 10 minutes now. So thank you for your time. Really appreciate your time and your expertise and making time for us and sharing, what you know to help people. So thank you.
The opportunity. So yeah, you know me. I love diving into this stuff and love getting to connect with you. And been helpful for everybody listening. But yeah, let's dive into the questions for sure.
Okay, so let me see. Just go back to the start. Oh my God, so many people. So many people, so little questions. Quite a few.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, was saying it's true. We have more than 100% response. We're more than 100% responsible, right? Yeah, thank you for your comment. I think the next one is from Bella. How do you keep being resilient from difficult? So I'm paraphrasing a little bit. Hope you don't mind that.
Yeah.
How do you become more resilient from difficult situations? Like how do you be resilient and go through difficult situations that you're going through? Step back or presently being present and being aware of your current situation. I guess that's what she's trying to say.
I kind of hear that as how do we build resilience, with those inevitable challenges that we're going to experience in our lives. And I say the funny thing about that is it's kind of like what comes first, the chicken or the egg, right? It's like we build resilience because of the challenges. And so it's like, okay, it's kind of like what we want is on the other side. It's like we have to be willing to just go through it. And what I actually do, I have an exercise that I used to do for a lot of my clients in the beginning of my coaching, which they're called courage generators. So basically, it's like a little exercise. It's really simple that you can do. And you can basically reflect back through your life and reflect back to the challenges that you've had and that you've overcome, right? So you could go, for instance, I could say the first one that just popped into my mind was like, being able to quit law, right? When my family, like, that's what they wanted for me. Being able to quit that and overcome that was like such a courage generator or a resilience builder. Gone through a challenge of like even having to leave a school and start a new school and start all over again, or had a challenge in your family, or had a breakdown of a relationship. And it's because so many of us we don't look back and we don't look at the success. We don't reward ourselves for that. We don't identify and integrate that. We just, God, that was painful, and we never look at it, and we don't look at how far we've come or how we've grown.
That's so important.
What's one for you, Thurein? Like, what's something that you could see, like, wow, I overcame that. Like that built
there are quite a few for me. One, when you were saying that, what came to mind was the experience where in a training room where it's learning how to do workshop and speak, right? So it's part of just like with my struggles and challenges of expressing myself and projecting my voice, because I'm quite naturally soft-spoken. So as an introvert as well, right? So it's kind of challenging for me to practice projecting my voice and actually, you know, be standing in a room where people are watching, where you repeatedly get up and present and speak, right? And what was, I guess, most impactful for me was while I was doing that, I didn't know that I was inspiring people that are around me, because I didn't see myself that way. I see myself as, oh, this, you know, weird Asian dude with his whatever, feeling not enough in my victim story. Whereas when I kept doing that, the feedback that I got from someone next to me was, "Is thank you for doing that, because you're inspiring me to actually, you know, stand in my power and say what I want to say and express myself." So it's that experience of doing it because I know that I need to go through that, overcome that, you know, getting over myself, the self-judgment, the pity story of how I wasn't enough, or how I couldn't articulate, or whatever that story was. And just repeatedly doing that, overcoming that challenge and that fear, was actually inspiring someone to actually, you know, stand in their power and express themselves. So it was a very cool, as well as a spiritual experience for me, in that, like that that quote by Marianne Williamson about how what we're afraid of is not the fear, but the light in ourselves. That if you take ownership of the light and shine, you inspire other people to do the same.
Totally.
Well, I'm paraphrasing, but
Do you know what I love about what each of us just shared then in relation to the drama triangle was, you just shared the journey of going from a victim that's focused on themselves and their own insecurities to the creator of their life that's willing to shine because you want to create meaning in your life. And mine was being the rescuer. Oh, my parents are going to like feel bad about me making a decision that serves the health and well-being of myself, right? And I took responsibility and, you know, and became my own coach, right? So it's
that's so cool.
Yeah, like it's
all okay, so to thank you for asking me that question, because I think it's something that I don't appreciate. I don't think about it that often and appreciate. Is I get emotional thinking about that moment, because it's one of those experiences where I overcame my fear, and then that helped somebody else, and that in turn helped me see that, okay, if I keep overcoming my fear, it's not about me, right? Because we all make it about ourselves and our little sad story of how not enough we are, and whatever story that we have, you know, it might be different for the audience that are watching. But yeah, so thank you for your strategy. The strategy in terms of to overcome, to keep being persistent, is keep going through the challenge that you're going through, because that's part of your purpose. And looking back and appreciate, or remind yourself the difficulties that you've overcome. That's helped you become who you are today.
Totally. And even with those, like I would say, get people to do like 10 courage generators, right? Like 10 moments in your life where, just like you just expressed then, something that brings meaning to you. And like you just said, it's not about me, it's about meaning, right? That's what you're looking for, right?
Love that.
And if you had 10 of those different key moments in your life that you had on a list, these courage generators, and say each morning you woke up, like if you're trying to build resilience in your life, get yourself moving, make yourself feel strong and empowered to look over that and go, wow, like remind yourself of the emotion, reconnect with that moment of you being on stage, and then having people say to you, like, thank you, like that really inspired me to get beyond my own fears. If you are reminding yourself of those key moments, you generate the courage, the resilience to tackle the inevitable challenges, right? So that would just be like a strategy that you could you could use, and that I've used with many clients, and I've used it for myself, you know, to build my own courage when I first started, when I was actually doing my first course. And that actually became part of my first ever course that I created. I was using, because I call myself kind of the human guinea pig of all things personal development. So like I teach stuff I haven't used on myself and then found
Love it.
So
Yeah. You're walking your talk.
Yeah. Oh, good.
Yeah. Yeah. So courage generators. I'm gonna start doing that because I haven't done it in the way that you just mentioned it. So courage generator.
Your energy is already shifted, by the way. Like you just got more energized just by reconnecting to that memory, right?
Yeah, definitely.
You seem like more at peace, like more energized. I don't know. So yeah.
Yeah.
Ready to go.
Do this. Love it. Thank you for reminding me of that. Would that be the same as, because the way that I've been using it with my clients has been your success reference points, the way that Tony Robbins taught it.
Yeah.
Success reference points in the sense that you remember your successes, right? One of the books that I've read, they recommend writing down your like small little successes every day. It's like, what did you do well today? Instead of, because our psychology, our mindset is generally very biased towards the negative, because that's how we're wired as human beings, is to look for the, you know, the fear points, the negative, what's going wrong, what's going to go wrong. You know, instead of looking at what's going right.
Yes.
You know, what did you do well today? What are your small successes? I got up today. Right.
I was alive.
Because there's so many days I just want to stay in bed, right? I want to talk about with you in terms of, and maybe of our next session, live conversation, depression, mental health. I want your perspective on that, because that's something that I think we need a lot more. There's still a lot of, I think, stigma. Even in Australia, right? There's a lot of stigma around, especially for men, to be struggling with depression. And that's something that's real. And that's, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that is a big topic that I'd love to dive into with you. And I've had my own struggle with depression. My version of depression was what I call situational depression, which most depression that majority of people are experiencing is what I'd refer to as situational. There's a reason, right? Like if we looked at your life, it makes sense that you would be feeling depressed, right? Because how you would love for your life to be is not matching up with the reality of your life. That's why you feel depressed. But there's other angles that I'd love to take with you as well, because as I've gone on this journey and learning, and particularly diving into accessing our emotions and not judging our emotions, I've also learned that depression is kind of when we're flatlining, where we're numbing out from our emotions because we're judging them as good or bad. And so we end up just numbing out completely. So there's a bunch of different angles that I think we could take on that, because like you said, like a lot of men in particular struggle because in our societies at this time in history as well, you know, it's not as acceptable. It's become more acceptable for men to experience emotions these days than it has previously, but it's all connected to our judgment, because whatever emotion we judge, you know, we repress it, and it simultaneously represses our its positive opposite, its polarity. You know, that. But
Brene Brown's work on not selectively, is it that, because I learned that from Brene Brown, I think, the way that you said it about selectively repressing the negative.
Yeah.
Because you can't, if you repress the negative, you can't also experience the positive, because like you've shortened the range of emotion that you allow yourself to experience.
Totally. Yeah, I haven't personally learned it through Brene Brown, but mainly I learned a lot of my stuff through the work of Dr. John Demartini.
Yeah.
He's spoken about it. But yeah, that's the same thing. It's why we can look at some of the most influential people in our history who have basically, gone the depths of trauma, gone the depths of negative emotion, and and they're the ones who excel at the highest levels when they do heal themselves and grow. So there's in the access and the spectrum of emotion that we experience to propel us forward. But anyway, in terms of depression, I look at it as kind of defining situational depression, what's going on in our lives, and also our own judgment of our full expression of ourselves emotionally, and so forth, and also looking at what our blueprint or our model of how we think life should be and its difference compared to the reality of how our life is.
I think that's a big factor, the expectation mismatch between how you want it to be and how it really is at the moment.
Totally.
And that can trigger depression for some people.
So again, it just comes down to, if anybody is like struggling with depression, it's about just that self-awareness, about seeing where you are on the map, like identifying how are you expecting life to be different right now? What focused on that's missing or that you can't control, right? Because they're the two kind of factors that we're experiencing oftentimes when we are in a state of depression. What's missing? And you're focusing on the stuff you can't control, right? So you're a victim at times, and it's not that you're wrong, right? Like it's just about, and it's not that you're bad. Let's just notice where we are so that we can identify where we want to get to, right? Become the creator, take responsibility, and then we can move in that direction. So yeah, but there's a lot more we
can talk about.
Yeah.
in our series. Thank you. One last question, if you don't mind. You okay?
Of course. Yeah. You know me. I can go.
All right. Thank you. How do you cope with yourself when you miss how do you cope with yourself when you miss your plan? So when what you're planning is not when your actions and things that you've planned are not, your plan's not going to your plan. Yes. I guess what I'm trying to say.
Oh, it's good. It's a great question. Because so many of us get caught in this trap where we, as our current selves, set an agenda, we set the plan, we think we know what we want, we go after the goal, and then we don't reach it, and then we judge and criticize ourselves and fall into a pit, right? So what I would say is we have to change our relationship with success and failure, right?
Yes.
Because we have to know that who we are now, we don't have the information and experience that we will as we journey towards the goal that we set, right? So we have to have that kind of understanding that it's a learning process to move forward in the direction of our future. We can set where we think we need to get to, what we think the goal is, but we have to stay open with a growth mindset as to that being, having to have some flexibility and allow new information to come in, and to not, judge ourselves who didn't know, right? Our past selves in hindsight.
Yes.
Information.
I did that a lot.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it doesn't work, right? It doesn't work.
No, it just keeps you stuck, and it just keeps you stuck.
Yeah.
Because now you're coming from fear of making the same mistake again or making another mistake, so you kind of freeze in the process.
Exactly.
Yeah. Whereas you should have been just, okay, this is the learning process. So, like you said, change your relationship with Moran, right? Change your relationship with failure. And things not going to your plan. Things not going according to your plan, right? Because like you said, we don't have the necessary experience or skill that maybe it's the right target, not the right target for us in terms of the goal.
Totally.
right? So it's about self-awareness, coming back to self-awareness
Yeah.
and building the necessary skill as you go through the process again.
And think
Right.
about it this way. This is how I think about it. And I think I got this information, like, or this thought pattern from Jordan Peterson. I'm pretty
Oh
sure.
God, I was gonna ask you that question. It's like, are you a Jordan Peterson fan? Like, do you
God,
watch?
I love this.
Boom.
I love, boom.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew you'd love him as well. So it's about, like, are you motivated? Like, you want to work out how to motivate yourself to do what you want to do, right? And you have to think about yourself as your own employee, right? You're simultaneously
Yeah.
the boss and the employee. And, you need to see what type of boss you are, right? If you are a boss who sets a goal that it's not really being thought out and there's no room for failure, right? No room for anything to be different than this projection into the future. And then you don't match up, or you don't get there, or you even get the goal and there's no reward, or there's no pleasure involved. There's no, hey, like, recognition, like you did,
Yep.
or appreciation of your effort. Like, you're not going to be inspired to move forward, right? And you're going to be terrified of moving forward, because if anything doesn't go to plan, like, you're going to get the wrath of the boss, right? Like the self-judgment, the criticism, the lack of energy, the more I feel not good enough, even more, right? And so
Yep.
what we want to do is we want to work out, how could I be the best boss for myself? So we have to look at, like, okay, I want to see the best. I want to be flexible yet challenging, right? I want to be the coach and I want to be the challenger, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And how do I inspire that employee of mine to become the creator, to take the action, the inspired action towards that? And so it's kind of like becoming the best boss, or, the healthy mother and father for your own self, right? Parenting yourself towards your goal and your ideal.
Oh,
So,
I love that.
yeah. And it all starts, like, I think the key is self-compassion, right? That's it. Like, we have
Yes, that's
compassion.
so important. Self-compassion.
Yeah.
Um, because we've been conditioned to prosecute ourselves, right? The prosecutor, like within ourselves, the angry boss who's constantly chastising
Yes.
ourselves for not getting the task done or whatever, doing things wrong,
Yeah.
incorrectly.
Yeah. And if you
Self-compassion.
think about it this way, we've got the internal persecutor, like, like not challenging us, like criticizing, condemning, all that
Bullying.
bully inside. And then what happens is a rescuer has to come into play. So that part of us that's like, oh, like, it's too painful, I'm going to go sit on the couch and I'm going to eat ice cream and watch Netflix. It's okay. Like, you don't have,
Addiction.
the addiction enters, right?
Yep.
Absolutely. Anything that can distract us from that terrible persecutor who's tearing us down, right? It's like trying to save us from that. But at the end of the day, the only way we exit out of either of those is, to get into the empowerment dynamic, to go, I'm persecuting myself. How can I instead now see my potential and say, you know what, I'm not going to settle for anything less than my potential. How can I see the rescuer who wants to come in and just be addicted to stuff and distract myself with stuff, and go, you know what, I'm going to be a coach. Like I'm going to role model what's possible, right? I'm not going to fall victim to that. And how do I see myself as the victim? Like, it's all too hard, I'm never going to have it, it's never going to happen for me. And instead go, you know what, I'm going to take 100% responsibility. It doesn't matter what anybody else is doing, what they have done, not done. I'm the creator of my destiny. So yeah, I think it's a good, I like using frameworks like that to just kind of
Yeah.
everywhere, right? It
That's
just,
that's how I see the world as well. Is in frameworks. That's when I see people. I see this framework where they're at. It's kind of I think, because I like Dr. John T. Martini. I got this from him. It's about the caring, the careless, and the careful.
Yeah.
The three types of communication, right? When you are being careful, like you're afraid, coming from fear of not offending, so you put them on a pedestal and you put yourself beneath them and say, I have to be careful how I please them. It's like make them. And when you're coming from careless, is you're putting yourself on a pedestal to say, yeah, I don't care what you say, I'm just going to say what I want and don't care about your feelings.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work either. So you have to be caring enough of the person to communicate from your heart to say, okay, let me see where you're at, like what your personality type is. And I carefully construct the way that I communicate to you so that you learn what you need to learn from me, so that I add value to you.
Totally.
Right. So some people don't like to be put in a box, because that's something that I get challenged with, because that's how I see the world, and that's I label everything.
Me too.
Yeah, but I think it's a good way of, I think the analogy is, it's like you want to be caring, you're coming from a compassionate place.
Yes, I love that. And that's that. It's not about putting people into a box. It's actually about identifying where they are on the map and where they can get to, and getting to grow and close that gap in the most meaningful way that's unique to them. So it's actually about becoming more unique.
It's about caring enough about them to actually identify what their needs are, where they're at, what the struggles and challenges are, being compassionate and empathize. It's about empathy, right?
Totally. Yeah.
So,
but you can't get to that place of caring. It's kind of what we were talking about earlier, without having that within yourself, like having the self-awareness, having the compassion for your own journey and your own differences.
Love it. Oh my God. This is so valuable. Thank you so much.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. 2.5 hours.
That's us. That's how we roll.
All right. Okay. So I think that's all the questions. 2 questions.
Yep.
That we hope we answered. All right. After you watch this, if you have any questions, please comment, and we'll come back and maybe comment underneath your questions. Is there anything else you want to add? Another half hour. I don't mind if you want to keep going.
We just keep going. And but all I want to say is thank you so much for the opportunity to dive into these sort of conversations, because they give me so much energy. And sometimes it's not always that possible to have this level of depth of conversation. So I know that that's a big part of why I love building the community that I'm building, and I love the community that you build. It's like you're giving people access to other like minds and open minds, so that, because we're not always born into families or, whatever, that have the same interests or values as us. And sometimes
you got to build your own tribe.
Yeah. You create it, right? Yeah, absolutely. So, thanks for the opportunity. And I always love getting
welcome
with you and dive in, go on all our tangents. And and as I said before, I hope that this has been valuable to your audience.
It absolutely is. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you. Appreciate what you bring. Appreciate your energy, and especially your time and your expertise. You're making the time to share, and freely your resource, what you created, the masterclass for my people. So for my community. Thank you so much. That's very generous of you.
Yeah, you're so welcome. And I look forward to connecting again. I know I'm going to have you on my podcast.
Yes, it's at the 17th.
Yes. Yeah.
Yep.
That'll be fun. So can't wait to dive into that one.
Do you have a time limit?
Not with you.
All right, cool. We'll love to join you. So thank you again for inviting me, and thank you again for making time for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Always.
Enjoy your evening.
Thank you. And look forward to chatting again soon. And much love to everybody who tuned in.
Yep. Thank you everybody for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.
Awesome.
All right, bye.